Our first repeat on camera, Shaheen is 4-0, as I suppose is Chaz. So both of these guys looking to not just avoid their first loss, but, get another win.
Yeah, one of the things about this stage in the event, when you've got a 10-round tournament, that's a lot of rounds. Every win is so important in these early rounds. Chaz does his first mulligan here. I mean, down to 6 cards, Arbor Elf.
Yeah, so on the play, mulligans to 6, but has a turn 1 play. So that's good news for him. His deck is built to thrive in these early turns. Shaheen, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. Just wants to get to the late game where he can take control and just grind his opponent out with Drown Yards and Planeswalkers. So turn 2 Gyre Sage, and Shaheen has an ultimate price for the Arbor Elf because Chaz missed his second land drop. So Gyre Sage going to presumably help the cause for Chaz, and an Arbor Elf to replace the previous, but that Gyre Sage needs to evolve before it can add any mana. So Shaheen quickly trying to dispatch Chaz's second mana source.
Lingering Souls. One of the things about the way that Esper is built, as Shaheen has it, is it's totally the case that he can beat somebody down with, say, Lingering Souls and Vampire tokens from Soorani, but primarily what his deck's goal usually is just to create a little impenetrable fortress.
Yep.
And once that fortress is set up, the Fortress of Solitude, if you will, then he can just drown you out. We were joking earlier about the Super Friends deck from maybe about 3 years ago at this point, and how when it comes to Planeswalkers, coming up with good superheroes for each of them. Well, this one, it definitely feels like a Super Friends style thing. In this case, what we say the Justice League is what Shaheen would be having.
So Chaz is able to still play the game with just 2 mana sources, finds a Strangleroot Geist, which will evolve the Gyre Sage, and both now in the red zone, 2 power each. And Chaz will have access to at least 3 mana next turn.
I think Shaheen,
presuming his guys all live through the turn.
Shaheen, considering whether or not he wants to block anything there, decides on no. Going to the next turn, it's turn 4 here. Shaheen Soorani lays another Drown Yard.
And finds Soorani. That is Batman.
Batman, according to Joey Pasco. I'm down with that.
I mean, it makes the most sense that he's Batman because...
and Batman does not make 2 zombies, or two vampires, but gives one bat, which is what we'll be calling those life-linky vampires.
Yeah, Shaheen's deck, as you mentioned, trying to build a fortress. Early game, he's got Lingering Souls to kind of these are the foundations of his fortress. He's trying to put these guys in the way to protect his own life total, protect his Planeswalkers. But then again, and he talked about it a lot last week, using your life as a resource. He says, you know what? I'll trade my life total for some Lingering Souls tokens. I'd rather not block. I'd rather save my tokens for later when they may be more relevant. So, as you see, he's at 15. That's a pretty healthy life total.
Hinkle pays 2 life for his Stomping Grounds, adds a Flinthoof Boar, and I think we're going to see, there's the evolution of the Sage. Sage can now make 2 green mana. And just a Strangleroot Geist comes in, and a lifelinky Vampire blocks. I think we're going to see a Gore Clan Rampager come over to take out Soorani.
Yeah, Chaz obviously trying to deal with the Planeswalkers as quickly as possible now.
I like it. I think you should do it. Come on, Chaz. And he does. There we go. Boom, trample over. This is what we classically call a 2-for-1. That Gore Clan Rampager makes the trample for his Strangleroot Geist, kills the Vampire, and then kills Batman, Soorani, Lord of Innistrad.
Well, again, this is something that Shaheen was talking about last week. He mentioned early game, he uses his Planeswalkers to soak up damage. Look how much damage that Soorani just soaked up. He made his opponent use a Gore Clan Rampager to deal with it. Look at Shaheen. He's at 16.
He's at 7 more life than he would have been. The 2 damage from the Strangleroot the 4 damage from the Gore Clan Ramager, and the 1 lifelink.
And now Shaheen finds a Detention Sphere, hits the Gyre Sage, going to continue to try to choke Chaz on mana. Also flashes back Lingering Souls, so he's got 4 guys with which to block.
Now, by doing that, he practically, not quite, but almost halved Chaz's mana. In come the creatures, and we see a block here to kill everybody, I think. Yep, yeah. The board clears, and Strangleroot Geist comes back.
And Domri Rod comes down for Chaz.
And Chaz pushes up his sleeves.
Yeah, he's like, gotta roll up my sleeves.
Roll them up.
Planeswalker. Look at the top, not a creature. Oh, that was anti-climate. And another Batman to replace the previous. Soorani, Lord of Innistrad, comes down, makes another vampire.
This is the second Soorani from Shaheen Soorani.
I believe
there are 2, that's correct.
But again, he's just padding his life total with these vampires, these Lingering Souls tokens, these Planeswalkers. Before you know it, Shaheen's going to have a ton of lands, and he's relatively healthy.
We see Domri do a fight between the vampire and the Strangleroot Geist, and then the creatures finish off the Soorani.
And here we have a Drownyard activation. Hits Devour Flesh. I believe it was Devour Flesh, Snapcaster Mage, and Liliana. Does that look right to you?
Yeah. Shaheen actually in some trouble now. Casts Azorius Charm on the Strangleroot Geist, puts it back on top, saves himself a mess of damage, but then it is going to be resetting the Strangleroot Geist. And I believe Domri already ticked up.
Yeah, he did.
That's a shame for Chaz.
Because he could have guaranteed a creature on top. Arbor Elf comes down for Chaz. Chaz on the beatdown with just some very small guys.
I think we might see a drowning of Chaz right now. We got drown, you Strangleroot Geist.
Yeah, so there goes the Geist, and there goes a second copy of Domri. Now there are only 2 in Chaz's deck, so those are both his copies of Domri, 1 in play and 1 in the graveyard. Shaheen with 4 mana up, and it's going to go ahead and drop to 12 here from the Arbor Elves. Chaz again. Oh, now he's activating Domri, I believe?
Yeah. And there's a question happening of some kind.
Yeah, I saw a 4. I don't know if it was a cards in hand question. I don't think Chaz has 4.
I think the question is what Domri is on.
Okay, and he finds an Experiment 1 on top of his library with the Domri.
Mizium Mortars in Chaz's hand.
Shaheen with just 1 card in hand. I don't know what it is because I know he had Glacial Fortress something else, but he played the Fortress. And there's the Experiment 1. And end of turn, Drown Myself.
Finds nothing.
Land. So that was probably a great drown because I don't think Shaheen wants to draw 3 lands consecutively. I think his hand is just 2 lands.
6 mana. Terminus?
Wrong.
7 mana. From the graveyard, main phase, Forbidden Alchemy. It's an instant, but you can cast it during your main phase.
Now that was what I thought was Snapcaster, but it was Forbidden Alchemy, not Snapcaster.
End of your turnitis kills, folks. Shaheen looking here, I think, to find a Lingering Souls so that he can put it in the graveyard and immediately cast it.
Yeah, unable to find one, but finds, looks like Jace, Dissipate, Isolated Chapel went to the graveyard, found a Detention Sphere.
Shaheen's life is actually fairly low here.
He's got more than half of his life left, although Chaz,
This attack will be doing 3 or more damage, depending. Oh my goodness gracious. Wolfir Silverheart. That is going to be an effective +5. Oh, and Chaz does not evolve. There has been a lot of problems with evolution this tournament.
Yeah, people missing the evolve triggers quite a bit. I think more than half of the evolve triggers have been missed.
In many ways, this reminds me of the Zeniths, where there were a lot of Zeniths put into graveyards when they first came out.
But see, that was like mandatory. You shouldn't be doing that. With this, it's, you can miss them.
Well, with that, though, if you missed them, they stayed.
Really?
That was the ruling at the time.
I thought that was something that was corrected.
Later.
Okay. So anyway, Detention Sphere from Shaheen
takes out that Wolfir Silverheart. Shaheen at 6 life.
Domri threatening to go ultimate very soon.
Shaheen takes 3, goes to 3. Domri ticks up.
Yeah, one more counter and he'll be able to
Doesn't find
ultimate.
anything.
Yeah, nothing there.
Shaheen almost dead here. Dead.
Man,
Oh,
super flooded.
Wow. Flood.
Yeah, sometimes you can't play Magic because all you have are lands. So, but Chaz able to put enough pressure on. Chaz was not in a good position either that game. When you think he mulled to 6, he won the game mostly with Arbor Elf, a pair of Arbor Elves. So Chaz did not have the ideal draw either. But Shaheen, with a deck full of answers, couldn't find any beyond the first few turns where he had a couple of Soorans and some Lingering Souls.
26 land in Shaheen's deck.
I think he drew 28.
I think actually you're underestimating.
No, maybe 30.
Yes.
Could be.
Now they're going to the sideboards here. Shaheen Soorani playing against a very aggressive deck. I expect we're going to see Tragic Slip, Devour Flesh, Rocks, Faithmender, and Trading Post all come in.
Yeah.
And perhaps Curse of Death's Hold. He has shown that he likes Curse against Arbor Elf decks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he brings in the Curse. But yeah, you're right on the I agree with everything you're saying, I think. On Chaz's side, he's got 2 copies of Garruk Primal Hunter, which I think is just such a back-breaking card against these control decks if it resolves. I imagine those come in. Also, if the game is going to go long, which it usually does against these control decks, you can bring in a pair of Kessig Wolf Runs, just like the last list we saw. Kessig Wolf Runs in the board, not in the main deck, but long-running game, the Wolf Run could really break the game open. And 3 copies of Thundermaw Hellkite to kind of, just kind of come out of nowhere with some extra damage, kill a Planeswalker. And also, again, the game going long, you're going to likely get to 5 mana.
That's exactly how I like to board this. And I think what you end up taking out, you get rid of those Mizium Mortars. And as much as I like increasing Savagery, I do not think that actually is what you want to be doing here. You're playing against a deck that has access to black removal and might have Wrath of God style effects. Effects like Supreme Verdict or Terminus. You don't know whether they have it or not. And in Shaheen's case, Shaheen has 4 Supreme Verdict, but this color combination, you can expect generally between 3 and 7 Wrath style effects. So I think increasing Savagery goes. And you find 2 slots to slip there. Maybe you just cut like random other cards that are not as heavy hitting for you.
I'm down with that.
Chaz Hinkle up game 1 against Shaheen Soorani. Chaz's red-green deck versus Esper Planeswalkers. These decks kind of represent the edges of the metagame right now. The very aggressive red-green list. Not quite as aggressive, I think, as the... this is actually a green-red list, to be fair. Not quite as aggressive as the red-green lists that are kind of more Ash Zealot-based and splashing the green, but still quite aggressive. And Shaheen Soorani with very much a strict-up control deck.
Yeah, if you maybe missed it earlier when Shaheen was on, or haven't heard us talking about it, Shaheen's list much heavier on the tap out side of control, where he's playing permanents, he's playing planeswalkers, a lot of planeswalkers. In fact, he's got 2 Sorin, 2 Liliana, 2 Jace, and a Tameo. 7 main deck planeswalkers in his 7 planeswalkers total in his 75 cards. So he is not the Ben Stark Pro Tour list that you saw a few weeks back. His is quite different. He is a huge fan of Lingering Souls, as you may or may not have known, and we saw him put it to use there. Couldn't find a second copy, although, wow, how good would a second copy have been?
He was trying so hard, too.
Later in that game, game 1, he would have been in great shape to just buy himself a couple more turns. So, down a game, Shaheen's going to be on the play, evaluating his opening 7, and looks like he keeps. Now, I can't quite see for sure, but I know he plays Obsidat main deck, one in the main. I think I see one in his opener, which isn't the card you want to see exactly in your opener against this kind of deck. I could totally be wrong. I'm looking at a tiny, tiny little image, but that is a card he was very much impressed by. I think when he can cast it, it's huge against this deck. A 4-point life swing, you're gaining 2 life, you're negating attacks, and you're also draining your opponent. You're also hitting them for 2, so...
There's a really weird tension on Obsidat in this kind of matchup, because it is such a huge body. It's just a huge, huge body. But that life gain, you want the life gain, but in order to get it, you've got to get the body out of there.
Right, so no blocker, right?
Yeah.
You don't have that blocker. So you hope to be in a situation where you have other guys to block, and Obsidat can blink a couple times, put your life a little more out of reach just to give you more time. And that's what all these control decks are about. I mean, pretty much, you go all the way back to the beginning. Control decks are just about buying time until the late game when they can play just more powerful spells. So that's the whole idea here. Shaheen, with a lot of power in his deck, wants to get to the late game, wants to buy time with Lingering Souls and removal spells, and even his Planeswalkers.
Chaz mulliganing here. Yeah, well, you say all the way back to the beginning, and that's so true. I mean, if you are a student of Magic history, the first truly impressive Magic deck that people really talk about was so good that its creator called it the deck.
Yeah.
And that's Brian Weissman's The Deck. And The Deck was a deck that ran Jaina-Maid Tome, which is 4 mana to cast, 4 mana tap, draw a card, and Disrupting Scepter, 3 mana to cast, 3 mana tap, make your opponent discard a card. And it would just grind, and then to stay alive, use creature kill effects and counterspells. Shaheen Soorani's list is basically the great, however many greats, grandchild of that list from 1994.
He'd appreciate you calling it that great.
It is a great deck. Turn 1, Experiment 1. Shaheen goes turn 2 with what?
He does have an isolated chapel there. He's going to Tragic Slip.
Slip it is.
So Shaheen keeping the board clear and safe for Planeswalkers.
Another Experiment 1. Shaheen lays a 3rd land. That looks like a new Godless Shrine?
That is a Godless Shrine, and he's going to Liliana, sacrifice your Experiment 1. Again, buying the time. Chaz wants to come out of the gate very quickly. And a Grafdigger's Cage, not the card I would have expected Chaz to bring in. I don't know if he's worried about Snapcaster Mage, and or he just wants to shut off like Forbidden Alchemy. He shuts off Lingering Souls. That's pretty big. But and I guess that's the main target. He also saw Shaheen actively milling himself. So maybe he thinks Shaheen has a little more going on there.
Yeah.
Flint Hoof Boar. And then we have a Forbidden Alchemy in response, I believe, from Shaheen. Looking to find something, I think just a land maybe. Puts a couple of Lingering Souls in the graveyard. Now the interesting thing, he can deal with Grafdigger's Cage with something like a Detention Sphere, and then he completely accesses his graveyard again. It's not like Rest in Peace.
Oh boy.
There's that Obsidat I thought I saw.
He goes +1 on the Lily, discards a Supreme Verdict, drops Obsidat, does not flicker it out.
That's a big wall. Sorin off the top for Shaheen, and he says, you sacrifice a creature, and I'm going to swing in for 5. And Batman.
And you scoops to Batman.
To Obsidat and Sorin. That game was like a minute and a half.
It was a quick one. I mean, Chaz was on 6 cards there.
He may have been on 5. Did he go to 5 or it was?
Went down to 5 cards. So Chaz starts out with a turn 2 creature. Not exciting. Shaheen kills it. Follows up with a turn 3 creature. Shaheen kills it. And then Shaheen Obsidat. Boom. Just, yeah. When the control deck gets to start attacking and you've got nothing, it's a bad place to be.
That Obsidat could have been a vanilla 5/5 for 5. That was really all it was. It was just, I mean, it was Obsidat and everything, but he didn't blink it out. Didn't do anything other than just like, I'm going to crash.
Now, the thing about sideboard cards like Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah, 3 of them in Chaz's board. He is clearly afraid of the graveyard decks. Wants to be prepared, and I don't hate that as far as like the numbers.
I mean, the most I would do against Shaheen, if I chose to bring in a Grafdigger's Cage, the most I would do is 1. You really want to maintain being an aggressive deck. Now, a lot of people give Mike Flores a hard time for bringing up his article, Who's the Beatdown? As, quote, the best Magic article of all time. But you know what? If it's not the best, it's one of the best. And the thing is, there's a lesson in that article, which you can find on the Star City Games archives. Who's the Beatdown? Look it up. And basically, the lesson of it is, keep your deck your deck.
Yeah.
If you are a beatdown deck, you've got to figure out that you're the beatdown deck.
Right. How much damage does Grafdigger's Cage do when it attacks?
Yeah, I mean, you can do a lot of things to change the role your deck takes. In any given matchup, one deck is likely to be the one that's on the offensive, one deck is likely to be on the defensive. If you are the deck on the offensive, be careful about giving up your ability to be that deck. Grafdigger's Cage, it's an answer to a question that might not have ever been asked.
Yeah, and it's funny because that Grafdigger's Cage was...
it actually did something.
It actually did. It shut off his Lingering Souls. The problem is Chaz needed some threats. And instead, he had Grafdigger's Cage, which, you know, it was fine. Like, Shaheen was just like, yeah, sure. Dead card you want to play? I mean, it was dead in that game, even though it shut off Shaheen's Lingering Souls and Forbidden Alchemy from being flashed back. Problem is, Shaheen just had other cards to play with.
From Twitter, GlintEye1 says, this will be a nail-biter. Soorani versus the evolving Gyre Sages.
I think evolving is the key word there. Well, if Chaz's actually evolve, it may actually be more difficult for Shaheen to beat them. But we've had a lot of instances of evolution just not happening.
It's actually kind of funny. There have been some plays that I had missed that involved the evolving, that involved Experiment 1 that I've seen happen. And I'm like, oh, wow, that actually would have been really good to do XYZ. So, I mean, new mechanics sometimes take a while.
Absolutely. Turn 2
Gyre
Sage for Chaz. He is on the play here. Shaheen had a turn 1 Godless Shrine and has a turn 2 Drowned Catacomb and passes back.
For those of you who are wondering what these wristbands are that our players have on, at all of the Star City Games events, we have great security. This is to help make sure that thieves don't take things. So, Star City Games is looking out for your stuff here at these events. Make sure you come on down and check us out.
Absolutely. Strangleroot Geist for Chaz evolves the Gyre Sage. Both attack. Azorius Charm puts the Strangleroot Geist on top of Chaz's library, but the Gyre Sage, again, evolves and connects for 2, let's say.
Third land.
It's a Drown Yard. And
Lily,
Liliana.
hit your guy.
Yeah, so Chaz here, top deck, Strangleroot Geist attacks Liliana. Yeah. that was a very... Liliana just starts walking over to the graveyard there.
She did her work.
She did. She was just a removal spell.
2 damage. I think we're going to see a 1/5. Boom! 1/5. What are you going to do about it?
Now, this isn't quite the threat that Obsidat is, but it has the same size butt. And the lifelink ain't no joke either. There you see.
Increasing Savagery.
Wow, okay.
In for 7/6 damage. That's a lot of damage.
Certainly is. Shaheen's going to take it off now.
Oh, D-Sphere. Detention Sphere in hand. Attacks for 1. Shaheen gains 2. And a Detention Sphere takes out the Geist of... Sorry, not the Geist of St. Traft. The Strangleroot Geist.
Right. The Strangleroot Geist of St. Traft. Yeah, that's some defense. And we've got a Wolfear
Silverheart. 4/4. A second Rock's Faithmender in hand for Shaheen.
All right, so Shaheen has Supreme Verdict. He says
go.
He did say go. I don't know what exactly else in his. We saw the second Rock's Faithmender, and we saw a Supreme Verdict. He's got something else there. Is that Ultimate Price?
Sphinx's Revelation.
The black card is the one I keep missing. I think it's Ultimate Price. Yeah, I'm almost positive it's Ultimate Price.
The Kessig Wolf Run in play on Chaz's side does make some math interesting here. Gore-Clan Rampager cast in order to be best friends with the Wolfir Silverhearts.
Yeah,
this will make it an 8/8. Best friends forever.
Wolfir coming in, and Shaheen says, I have something to cast
I'll
here.
gain 4 life. 2 for my Sphinx's Revelation, double it.
Also draw 2 cards there.
And he chooses to block.
Faithmender.
That's going to mean he takes 0 damage.
And
follow
here
up
comes
with Supreme Verdict.
Yep. There's a
Devour Flesh. Shaheen taking this game over.
That's what it's built to do. When he draws action, it's a pretty tough battle to fight from an aggressive standpoint. And Chaz now untaps with no dudes in play. Right now, the only non-land permanent in play is Detention Sphere, holding back a Strangleroot Geist. And a Wolfir Silverheart comes down for Chaz. Shaheen's trying to decide, do I want to devour its flesh or make Chaz devour its flesh? Oh,
ultimate
no, yes,
price.
Ultimate price. He goes with that. Okay. Probably a better choice. Doesn't gain Chaz the life.
Rock's Warmender, or Faithmender, not Warmender.
Yeah. Not Rock's Warmonk. They're related, though.
Garrick. Oh,
okay.
This is a beating.
What does Shaheen have to fight a Garrick?
Garrick Primal Hunter. He's got a Detention Sphere in hand. That's pretty good.
He does. That's something. So it'll be like a little Thragtusk. It's gonna leave behind a beast. And
he's waiting to get a beast token.
Yeah, there it is. No, he's not, because Shaheen devoured flesh.
0 creatures in Chaz's play.
And now Shaheen, I guess, could just attack Garrick, but I think he's gonna Detention Sphere it anyway.
Azorius Charm, Detention Sphere, eats the Garrick.
Sphere your Garrick. Shaheen
in for 1, gain 2. His hand, so good right now.
Forbidden Alchemy and Azorius Charm. Chaz with Experiment 1 and
Domri.
Domri.
Is that Domri Rod?
That was Domri, but...
Rod, I should say.
Domri Rod. And...
Domri works. He does +1. Let's see what happens.
And finds... I didn't... Oh, okay. It was an Arbor Elf. Shaheen didn't see it either. I believe we're going to see Arbor Elf. And he could Arbor Elf and Experiment 1 here. So, goes with Arbor Elf. Goes with Experiment 1. All right, passes back with Domri, Experiment 1, and Arbor Elf. Shaheen with a healthy life total draws.
Such a dangerous moment. He gets an Augur of Bolas. Augur.
But that was off of the Forbidden Alchemy.
Yep. Draw.
And finds a
Tragic Slip.
That's a pretty sweet card to have against a couple of X1s.
Shaheen thinking about attacking here.
Yeah, he'd like to deal with that Domri soon before it gains too much card advantage for Chaz, or even worse, gets to the point where it gets the emblem. He's going to go ahead and Augur, but Augur whiffs. I do have to say, even when Augur whiffs, a lot of times you're just hitting land, and at this point in the game, I mean, Shaheen doesn't scoff at a land, but kind of wants some action.
Strangleroot Geist is drawn. Domri in play.
Meanwhile, Shaheen gaining 2 life every time that Rock's Faithmender connects, and you do see it connected with Domri, knocking Domri down to 3.
I think we are looking at the Kessig Wolf run being contemplated. Chaz knows that he is in a precarious position here. Shaheen at nearly a full life total.
Shaheen holding, I believe a Tragic Slip, and I can't remember the other card.
Azorius Charm.
Oh, that's right. He didn't cast that Azorius Charm yet. So
Experiment 1 does evolve. He pumps Experiment 1 for 2. Has them fight. Nicely done. The fight between the Experiment 1 and Augur kills the Augur. And then he comes mostly in.
Yeah, he's trying to think here. I think maybe Shaheen's also backing him up, trying to figure out to figure something out here. So Kessig Wolf Run targeted the Experiment 1, pumped its power, made it fight with the Augur after evolving, so Augur didn't kill it. Augur now out of the way. Chaz able to connect with his guys. He's got Arbor Elf attacking and Experiment 1 attacking. Experiment 1 is currently what, +3? Or was it just
+2?
+2.
And Shaheen goes draw. Takes 5 damage.
All right, finds
Soorani. Rocks, attacks Domri. Strangerrootgeist blocks. Strangerrootgeist comes back. Experiment 1 evolves.
Yeah, quite the exchange there. Shaheen, though, gains 2 life, and now has Soorani, who is likely going to make a life-linking vampire here. Keep in mind, all life gain is doubled for Shaheen, so the life link particularly relevant here, because you can see Shaheen's life total is seems to take 1 step forward, 2 steps back for Chaz.
Is Shaheen empty-handed? No, one card in hand. That's the Devour Flesh.
I believe no, he used the Devour Flesh. I think it's
a Tragic
it's
Slip.
A land. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's a Tragic Slip. You're right. He played the land. And Shaheen
passes the turn,
doing some thinking. Didn't see what Chaz drew there. It's a Root Mount Crag.
And Domri ticks up. Finds, I could not tell what a green card of some. Was it a Wolfear?
I don't think it was a Wolfear. Looks like a Flinthoof Boar.
The Boar gives it the red.
So Flinthoof Boar has haste. It looks like Chaz trying to make some decisions here. He presumably wants to attack with the Boar, otherwise he wouldn't have given it haste, but looks like he may be changing his mind. All right, it looks like Geist and Boar maybe both attacking Soorani? Maybe Chaz doesn't even know for sure yet. His hand is Root Mount Crag. He can give something trample, but no power boost. Actually, no, he could give something a power boost with the Arbor.
He can give it 1 power.
Yeah. So I believe these are all coming at Soorani.
He does the block there.
Vampire blocks the Flinthoof Boar. Arbor Elf untaps the forest. And
+1/+0 trample. That means it's enough for Soorani to go away. Shaheen Soorani gains 2 life. Life gain doubled. And a Tragic Slip after combat is going to get rid of Experiment 1. No regenerating from that.
That Flinthoof Boar was a 3 power, right? And then it gained 1, so it was a 4 power.
4 power, yeah.
And why did Soorani go away? Wasn't there a 1 toughness vampire in its way? Right?
No, the trample.
Right, so wouldn't that have been 3 trample?
And then the Strangerrootgeist.
Oh, the Geist was attacking Soorani.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's what I wasn't counting.
Yeah.
I thought I didn't see whether the declaration was just Boar or what.
Oh my god, I think I just see a Thundermaw Hellkite.
That could be bad for Shaheen.
Now, Chaz right now has in play 7 power worth of creatures and a Kessig Wolf Run. And he can flash back. Oh my god, increasing savagery.
I didn't see what Shaheen drew, did you?
Devour Flesh. That is a lot of damage.
It certainly is. And
flashback of his own. Oh, an Azorius Charm, Soorani. I bet he takes Azorius Charm.
And he does. Very good. All right, Shaheen at 4 life needs to find
and a
something.
Sphinx's Revelation.
That'll be ridiculous with a Rock's Faithmender there. I imagine though he doesn't attack.
He says go.
He can draw 4, gain 8. He can also presumably block the giant dude.
Kessig Wolfrun is still a major problem here.
He could also devour flesh on himself, gaining. Well, no, I don't know how that would that trigger if he sacrifices the.
Domri. Wow, Domri fights. Shaheen, I think, is going to gain 4 life in response.
Yeah, Shaheen doing some math here. What we've done is Domri is deciding to make the Rock's Faith Mender and the Experiment one fight. So Shaheen is going to respond to that.
Too few mana to do everything that he wants to do.
Yeah, he's got a lot of answers in his hand, but the problem is he wants to Sphinx's Revelation for a lot. At the same time, he wants to be able to deal with all these guys. He can both Devour Flesh and Azorius Charm. He's not going to have a blocker, so he can charm the big guy, devour the other. I mean, he would go to 1 here, and that would kill him off of Kessig Wolf Run. So yeah, that's not the plan. He can. Yeah, he can gain 8, go up to 12.
I think he's going to devour his own flesh.
He definitely is doing some math here. So the thing that's strange to me, if he's doing it to himself, he's only gaining 5, right?
I think the question is whether he gains 5 or 10. I believe he will gain 10, but I am not sure. My level 2 judge status expired a very long time ago.
So he's targeting Chaz. Chaz sacrifices the Triangle Root Geist.
And as a result, I believe that means that he would only gain 5.
Yeah.
They fight, it dies.
Another Flint Hoof Boar, and I think that's it for Shaheen. I don't know how he gets out of this turn alive. Oh, we'll just play Thundermaw Hellkite too. Never mind. Forget the Flint Hoof Boar, just play Thundermaw.
Still had all these.
Yeah, seriously. That was really rough. It looked good for Shaheen for a while. But yeah, he didn't have enough. Couldn't really do everything he wanted to do once he had the action. But Chaz Hinkle defeating Shaheen 2 games to 1. So this red-green deck